All right, so today we're going to discuss a very interesting and well-made article by Mike Sando over at The Athletic, where he polled a variety of NFL executives, head coaches, coordinators, quarterback coaches, etc., all to put in and come up with a tier list of quarterbacks in the NFL. They divide them into multiple tiers and break that down in a way to show off, how are these tiers working? Because we can all debate about, who's the best quarterback in the league, but I think the best way really is to group them into tiers. There's kind of groups of quarterbacks. These guys are really good. These guys are really good, might have some small weaknesses. These have some major weaknesses, etc. So they don't pull for rookies. So any rookie quarterbacks this year, you're not going to see them. Bryce Young's not going to be in this list. But I thought it was a very interesting list, and there's a few insights I want to bring out. So the first thing, let's just go through the tiers kind of and look at them together here. So a couple of notes is you've got Patrick Mahomes. He was the unanimous tier 1 selection. Burrow was almost unanimous, but let's take a look at this. So Patrick, number 1, he had a voting average of 1.0. That's the best you can do, right? So how they have them rank it is everybody, they give out the survey, they rank it by tiers. So if you have a 1, that means every single person puts you in tier 1. 1.02 must be like one person puts you in like 2, I guess. I don't know how that exactly works, but that seems like a very small number to get there, but they did survey 30 people, so I guess maybe that's possible. So our tier 1 is Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, and Justin Herbert. I mean, I think that's pretty good. I'm interested about the Justin Herbert, right? Because we've got multiple Super Bowls, been to a Super Bowl, and an and multiple AFC title games. Josh Allen, kind of the freak of nature's got some MVP votes and things of that nature going for him. Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl champion. Justin Herbert hasn't won a playoff game. So I don't know, that's a little interesting to me, but I think we'll talk about that a little more in a second. So then your tier 2 guys: Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott, Matthew Stafford, Deshaun Watson, and Kirk Cousins. Pretty big number of players there, right? We got 6-7 players there, where we only had 5 in tier 1, so a few extra players there. Then your tier 3 guys: Kyler Murray, Derek Carr, Jared Goff, Russell Wilson, Tua, Jimmy, Daniel, Geno, Justin, Tannehill, Mac Jones. And then tier 4, which is kind of interesting to me, we're putting Brock Purdy, Kenny Pickett, Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, Sam Howell, who we've barely seen, Desmond Ridder, and Gardner Minshew. Okay, nobody's in tier 5. They made that comment up here. Nobody was in tier 5. No quarterbacks landed in tier 5, although some did receive some tier 5 votes. And again, there's no rookies. So there's 30 quarterbacks ranked, and interesting list. I think for me, at a high level, just do I disagree with anything in this list? At a high level, I think I'm fine with tier 1. Tier 1 seems good. I might just make tier 1 for quarterbacks and bump Justin Herbert down to tier 2. The reason is you haven't won a playoff game. I know there's, some blaming of the coaching staff and how they handle it. Absolutely. There's been some mishandled games, some mishandled playoff games. Should have been in the playoffs even before that. So I can have some problems with that. But, I'm looking at this tier 2. We got Jalen Hurts. I mean, the dude was an absolute stud last year. Made it to the Super Bowl. And I just don't know if there's a huge gap in their production between Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, right? Trevor Lawrence wins a playoff game. How are we putting Herbert up here? Most of us would all agree that Trevor Lawrence is just as good of a prospect as Justin Herbert coming out. Certainly coming out of college, he was highly touted compared to Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, there were some questions about, right? So if we're just going off of the eye test of like, oh, we think this guy's really good. Now, Herbert does have a few extra years of, production in his belt. So you could, I can understand why he was there, but I think if it was my list, I'm dropping Herbert into tier 2 with the rest of these players. I think this is your 4. This is your 4. I know Josh Allen, hasn't won a Super Bowl, but he's won playoff games, and he hasn't been to a Super Bowl, but he's won playoff games, and he's been productive for multiple years, right? He's got a lot of years under his belt of being a productive quarterback. We've seen a lot of great growth. We've also seen him be able to be productive without maybe the greatest supporting cast around him in certain situations. Their run game has been bad. Their offensive line has struggled in moments, and he's still been very productive. And I think that's kind of the mark of your tier 1 quarterbacks is, are they good kind of no matter what is around them, right? You got Patrick Mahomes, loses Tyreek Hill. We're going to be the same productivity on offense. Don't need him, right? I mean, yeah, maybe they would like to have him for certain situations, but we can find a new way to do it. Now, a lot of that, coaching can help with that. But, Joe Burrow, literally the most sacked guy in the NFL, doesn't have an offensive line. Hopefully, last year it seemed like there was some progress there on the offensive line. So, this year, going into this year might be better. But he still kind of went toe-to-toe with Patrick in an AFC Championship game with his bad offensive line missing multiple starters, right? That's the sign to me of that tier of quarterback. Josh Allen. Aaron Rodgers, last year, still pretty darn productive without any, really receiving help, right? He was dealing with a bunch of rookies, which is not something he likes to do, which is maybe a criticism you could have of Aaron, not elevating those teammates the way he could have. But I still think Aaron deserves to be in this top tier. That's where I'm going to push Justin Herbert. I know you there's definitely places where we're blaming the coach. We're blaming the coach for some of these situations. But it's not like I've seen you do it for a long time, and I'd love to see you be able to overcome and, it not be a close game where the coach's clock management can ruin it for you. So that's kind of my critique here. Personally, my list, I would put Justin Herbert down in tier 2. Now let's take a look at tier 2. Is there anybody in tier 2 that needs to go to tier 3 or 3 into tier 2? I think I'm okay with this. We've got Prescott. I think your top of this tier is definitely your Jalen Hurts, your Trevor Lawrence, right? And the rest of these people, we've got some issues with. And that's kind of what they mention here is he can handle pure passing situations, but he has a hole or two in his game. So Jalen Hurts, I actually don't know if we found a hole in his game, but he just has only done it for 1 year, right? There's these caveats to the players in tier 2. Jalen Hurts could absolutely be tier 1. We just got to see it again, right? We got to see him produce another year. He's only done it 1 year. Lamar Jackson, still people have questions about his pocket passing ability. Can he come from behind? And really, I think the biggest with Lamar is, can he stay healthy? He's been hurt. He's been hurt the last few years, so really, can he stay healthy? I think is the biggest question with him. Trevor Lawrence, I would put in the same kind of category as Jalen Hurts. Obviously, he didn't have quite the successful run that Hurts had last season, but he still really elevated with Doug Peterson at the head coach, they had a huge jump. And so I think we just got to see it a couple more years, and he'll be maybe fighting for those tier 1 spots. And then we come to Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott is your classic hard stuck tier 2 quarterback. We've seen him. We know what Dak Prescott is. It's similar with, Kirk Cousins. I think Matt Stafford is probably kind of in this category as well. He might have the opportunity. The Super Bowl run was quite impressive. That season was incredibly impressive. But he's getting older. There's some injury concerns there. Still sometimes makes some throws that you're like, I don't know about that. So I think these three are all your, hey, we know what you are. And Stafford, unfortunately, is starting to show some age a little bit. I mean, he's been in the league forever. So I think that's your kind of Dak Prescott, Matt Stafford, Kirk Cousins. Some of them, I think, can move higher on this list as maybe a Trevor or a Jalen moves into tier 1, with a good season. One of these could definitely move up kind of to the top of tier 2. But I don't think they can get really out of tier 2. Deshaun Watson, who knows what he is at this point. Last year was his first year back playing in multiple years. Got a lot of baggage. I would probably put Deshaun in tier 3. I don't think he deserves tier 2. I think we're all thinking about the quarterback he was before all of the scandals and the suspensions and everything. I think Deshaun Watson is definitely tier 3 or tier 4. I don't know why he gets in tier 2 here. He didn't have a good season last year. Looked really rusty, but I think we're just thinking of the quarterback he used to be. And what's so interesting to me is down here in tier 3, they threw Russell Wilson, who I would put in a similar boat to Deshaun Watson of like, we knew they've had great years, but we don't really know what they are anymore. Russell, you've got the whole Nathaniel Hackett situation. What is he? How much of that was his fault? How much is it of coaching and the players around him? I think Russell deserves to be in tier 3, and I think Deshaun is the same situation. I don't know why he got tier 2. Very interesting to me that it's a 2.36, so the majority of people were putting him in tier 2, which I think is interesting. I don't see it. I think he needs to go to tier 3. Be with the Kyler Murrays, the Russell Wilsons. These are guys that have shown moments of brilliance, or previously were great, and now we're not quite sure what's going on. And I think that's where Deshaun Watson sits. So looking at tier 3, I think we got a group of quarterbacks here that is pretty safe. This is the group of quarterbacks where we've got some talent or a piece of talent, something they're really good at, but they need a little more support around them. Kyler Murray, we're not sure, does he even want to play football sometimes, you're wondering. Derek Carr, I think, is the one person in this list where, I have seen Derek Carr overcome things, right? Whereas Jared Goff, kind of needs that perfect situation. Very good when he's got time to throw. A very capable quarterback. Russell Wilson, we don't know. Did he hit a wall? Did he not? Seems to believe the Broncos are praying that he didn't, and they still, can get something out of him. But Tua, 1 year, but man, there's so many injury concerns with Tua. So, he was leading the league in passer rating when he was playing, but he's got too many injury concerns. Jimmy G, your classic franchise kind of guy, loved in the locker room, productive but needs a lot of help. And that's kind of the story of this tier 3. Daniel Jones can be productive, proved it last year, but needs a lot of help. He needs a supporting cast around him. Geno Smith surprised us all last year, so hey, I think tier 3, he's kind of the lesser version of, your Jalen Hurts last year, where it's just like, whoa, this huge productive year compared to what we were expecting. Geno goes here. Justin Fields, Ryan Tannehill, Mac Jones. Yeah, I think that's all very fair. Now, tier 4. Tier 4 is interesting. Brock Purdy is very interesting. You'll notice the voting average was 3.5. 3.5, which actually 2.5 made it into tier 2. 3.5 did not make it into tier 3. Personally, I think Brock Purdy deserves to go into that tier 3. Had a great run. If you're looking at players, Brock Purdy versus Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Daniel Jones. Yes, Justin can run better, right? So he has that kind of edge. But Brock Purdy was an incredibly productive quarterback. Now, I think there's a little bit of a nerf kind of going on to some of these San Francisco guys. To say, oh, well, it's Shanahan. It's Shanahan's offense. Anybody could be productive with Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey. I think that's a little unfair. I mean, we've seen other quarterbacks struggle with great supporting casts. So I would put Brock Purdy in this tier 3. I think he fits. There's not a lot of tape on him, but there's, if you're asking me who do I want on my team, Brock Purdy or Mac Jones, I think I'm taking Brock Purdy. He's proven he's productive. Seems to be really well liked in the locker room. I think you got to put Brock Purdy there in tier 3. The rest of the tier 4s are very much your completely unproven players. Your played a few games players, right? And I think the rest of these are pretty fair. Tough for Baker fans out there and for Baker to see himself down here, but this is just he's kind of your backup at this point in his career, and what can we do with that? Seems to need a lot of help, with the running game and good offensive line and good weapons around him. Kenny Pickett, Jordan Love, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder, Minshew, all guys that have, they've played some games, they've had some moments maybe, but we really just don't have enough information on them. So any one of these guys down here could absolutely jump way up next year with a good year this year. So I think that's fair. I think my biggest complaints, Brock Purdy should not be in tier 4. And Deshaun Watson should not be in tier 2. Those would be my biggest complaints with what the NFL coaches and execs. Obviously, I'm one guy on the internet giving my opinion. This is, aggregated from a variety of sources. But this brings me into what I think is my most interested point. And that is, I want you to read through the descriptions of these tiers, and I want you to notice something. So let's read through them here. Tier 1 quarterback can carry every team each week. The team is winning because of them. They're expertly handling pure passing situations. Doesn't really have a hole in the game. So what makes a tier 2 quarterback? It's someone who can carry the team sometimes, but maybe not as consistently as others. And they can handle those pure passing situations in doses, or they have some other skill that is just special enough to get them out of tier 3, right? Probably has a hole or two in his game. Okay? Probably has a hole or two in the game. Tier 3. They're a legitimate starter, but they need a good defense, a good running game to win. Probably a lower volume drop back passing offense is going to suit them best. What's tier 4? Tier 4 is going to be an unproven player. Not enough information, right? That's why there's so many young players and players that haven't really started much. Or a veteran who would not start all 17 games. Couple things to note. I want to note there's a couple of caveats that get thrown into these tiers, and I feel like it's for specific players. Tier 4, they added this or a veteran who would not start all 17 games. If you look at this list, there is only one veteran in here, Baker Mayfield. So Baker Mayfield, they had to add a whole sentence because Baker Mayfield is in this category. And I would argue that tier 2 is very much the same. The or possesses other dimensions that are special. That's Lamar. That's talking about Lamar, right? There's nobody else on this list here that has some other dimension to their game that is like truly special compared to Lamar. Yes, Jalen can run, right? But Jalen's also proven to be a better pocket passer than Lamar, I think, in this year. So I think that's interesting that those two caveats. The other thing I want to bring up is notice how one of the main criterias for every single tier is how good of a pure passer are you. I think that's very interesting. Notice every single tier is basically, hey, they are experts at pure passing. Hey, they can handle pure passing situations, maybe not as consistently as the tier 1 guys. What is tier 3? They're a legitimate starter, but they need some help because a lower drop back passing offense suits them best. Tier 4, they're an unproven player. We just don't have enough information. Or they're an older veteran that we wouldn't start a lot. Everything, tier 4 technically doesn't mention passing, but it really is just, tier 4 is your bottom tier. It's who's left, right, when you do the other tiers. But notice all the other tiers, the main criteria is passing. I think that's very interesting. I think it's very interesting that when they pulled all of this information in, one of the main delimiter between the different tiers is how good of a pocket passer are you. You know, we talk about, you know, electric plays from people like Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts running the ball a lot. Josh Allen does it. That's an important part of the game. You got to still be mobile. That could be a hole in your game. I think, you know, that's a big reason why somebody like Jared Goff is down here in tier 3. Doesn't move real well, and so needs that supporting staff to be even better, right? You got to thrive in chaos if you're going to play quarterback in the NFL. And so I think that's interesting, but that was never categorized as the main thing you're looking for. Everybody is looking for a pocket passer. And I think that's very key, and maybe some advice to all the young quarterbacks out there. You want to be a passing quarterback, a pocket passer. Don't rely on your legs for too long. Absolutely use your legs. Patrick Mahomes is on top of this list. He uses his legs a lot. Moving around in the pocket, moving outside the pocket, and running. Even Joe Burrow runs for yards, right? Aaron Rodgers is like the ultimate outside of the pocket passer, is what he's been known for. On the move. Really, the biggest complaint I hear about Aaron from a player perspective, like how does he play on the field? You know, some people have some problems with his personal life, but on the field, his actual skills and the style of play he comes with is, hey, Aaron holds on to the ball too much, runs around too much, right? Justin Herbert absolutely can run. Josh Allen, monster, was really the Bills' running game the last couple of years. So, yes, you need to be able to run. That will get you into this top tier. But the main thing that separates these tiers, passing ability. Pocket passing, pure passing situations. That's when you are dropping back. It's not play action. You're not throwing a screen. It is, I'm in the pocket, snap me the ball and shotgun, let me throw it. Everybody knows I'm passing. These quarterbacks will still get it done. For me, I would bump Justin Herbert down to this tier 2. Does he have a hole or two in his game? I think it's, has he won? Because, I don't think Trevor Lawrence has a hole really in his game. Hasn't shown enough consistency, probably. Hasn't shown it for enough years. Same with Jalen Hurts, seems to be pretty good. Lamar seems to be pretty darn good, wins a lot of games, but we've got some concerns there with some injury history, and, is he even going to be healthy, right? So I think that's an interesting thing to note and something to remember. Notice every single one is talking about pocket passing, and that's really the important part. Yes, we get excited about Kyler Murray and how athletic he is and how he runs around, but at the end of the day, you need to be a good passing quarterback. You have been watching the Stack Shack Sports Show. Thank you so much for dropping by. Leave a comment down below what you think about the tier list. What would your tier list be? Thank you so much again for watching, and we'll see you next time.